Good morning. Welcome to Vacation Bible School 2022 powered by Pavi Youth. My name is John Paul Berlin. I am the youth leader at Christ's Answer Family Church in Little Batali, St. Peter. Now last year, if you remember, we traveled light and we spoke about the fruit of the Spirit. This year, we're going to talk 24/7. Well, that's the theme for this year's Vacation Bible School. Not that I actually want to talk for 24 hours for the next 7 days. Now, before we get into this lesson, let me engage you a little. You were entered into a competition and you won. Yay! Everybody's screaming your name, they're chanting, and your prize, thank you very much, is to do something that you love continuously 24/7, which is a grand total of 168 hours. What is it that you are doing? I can hear some of you know. Video games can't done. You would want to listen to your favorite artists on repeat. The more extroverted ones will want to spend that time with their friends. A few of you will probably prefer to curl up with a stack of books and lose yourself in the world of imagination and fantasy. We all have different answers, but how many of you would choose to spend those hours in the presence of God? Note what I said. Not in the church building 24/7, because let's be realistic. Not many of us would enjoy that. But I mean, spending that time in the presence of God, sharing your fears, doubts, questions, and hearing Him speak to you. Any hands? Alright. I trust at the end of this discussion, you would consider this as an option. Now let's talk about my favorite topic, superheroes. We live in an age where superheroes are celebrated. Marvel and DC are battling for supremacy of who has the best superheroes. Which story has the most thrills? Is it Batman or Black Panther? Spider-Man or The Flash? Or maybe, like me, you prefer the one and only Tony Stark, aka Iron Man. Fun fact. Did you know that the character of Superman was loosely based on the story of Jesus? These heroes often started out as ordinary people or people on a set path in life that experienced extraordinary events that changed the course of their lives forever. Batman was the son of a wealthy family, but when his parents were killed, it made him become a vigilante and fight criminals. Spider-Man was just a student when he was bitten by a spider, and that gave him superpowers. And Tony Stark was a billionaire, but he was kidnapped by terrorists, forcing him to create the Iron Man suit to escape. Did you know the Bible also has its share of superheroes? And many, just like those fictional characters, were headed in one direction in their lives, but an experience with God changed them and their outlook on life forever. Let's look at the reference verse for today's session, which is Psalms 24, verse 6. And you can read it with me. This is a generation of them that seek Him, that seek Thy face, O Jacob, Selah. Now, this verse contains a Bible character that many of us are familiar with from church and Sunday school. In fact, he is listed as a hero of the faith alongside his father Isaac and his grandparents Abraham and Sarah. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Jacob. But did you know that if I was to introduce you to the phase 1 version of Jacob, I don't think even your parents would be too keen to have you bring him home as a friend. So how does Jacob go from being an unsavory character to becoming a hero and someone God calls us to model. Let's go to his origin story. Now, if you were to list some of Jacob's characteristics, here are some of the things you would say. He lied to his father. He stole his brother's birthright. He cheated his uncle Laban. He married his wife and her sister. He had at least 13 kids from 4 different women. Truly, this seems more like the makings of a DC villain than a Bible hero. All of these are parts of Jacob's storyline, but despite some unsavory actions on Jacob's part, and the fact that it seems like telling the truth was Jacob's kryptonite, he was still regarded as a great man of God. Why? Because he came to a place where he recognized that God was his only source of help in his time of trouble. He realized that doing things his way damaged his family relationships. In fact, his older brother Esau, who he had stolen the birthright from, was on his way to meet him with 400 men, and Jacob feared to get revenge for his past trickery. Left alone and in great distress, Jacob called out to God for help. Then an amazing thing happened, as recorded in Genesis 32. Jacob wrestled with a man until daybreak. And when the man realized that Jacob wasn't going to give up, he touched his hip socket so that it would dislocate. And Jacob, knowing that the man was a heavenly being, still refused to give up and asked to be blessed instead. Jacob received his blessing and named the place where the event occurred Peniel, which means the face of God. Jacob's life was changed from that moment. He met his brother and apologized by offering him gifts in hopes of appeasing him. He was warmly embraced by his brother, who had forgiven him for his past deceit and trickery. For Jacob, it started with a need for help from God, but escalated into a need for direction and change. Jacob was willing to hold on in great pain and struggle to be touched by God. He wasn't just satisfied with a cursory knowledge or acquaintance with God. This resulted in Jacob having a new lease in life and a new destiny to fulfill. And this is why Jacob is regarded as a Bible hero and an example to follow, as our reference verse states, "This is the generation of them that seek him, that seek thy face, O Jacob." In this verse, David is showing the determination we should have like Jacob and seek the face of God. Seeking the face of God means getting to know God personally. It is akin to having a face-to-face conversation with a person. There is a sense of closeness and intimacy that occurs that is not possible otherwise. However, many persons today are content to label themselves as Christians because, they go to church, they go to Sunday school, they might even visit their youth ministries. And their parents might even hold positions in the church, so they think by proxy they're saved. Now, as Jara Nurse, Trinidad and Tobago gospel artist, mentioned at one of his concerts, no one can make a recommendation for you to God. You have to come to the place where you want to surrender your life and have a relationship with Him. It's not enough for you just to see God, as a genie that you visit when you want something. For example, you might want good grades, you might want a boyfriend, or you want a girlfriend, you want a job. Everybody wants some money, but you should be in constant communication with Him so that He can communicate with you and use you as a vessel for His kingdom. Now, I want you to imagine you're in a relationship with someone who you really admire and love, but You realize that they like you for what you do for them, such as buying gifts, taking them out, and they're extra nice to you when it's their birthday or Valentine's Day is coming. Tell me, how you will feel about that person? I'm sure some not so nice words would come to mind. Now, imagine you're in a relationship with a person who just like you for you. They enjoy spending time and talking to you, sharing ideas, and if you choose to give them a gift, it is met with heartfelt gratitude, but not expectation. Now, which relationship would you rather be in? It is the same with our relationship with God. Jacob in the beginning was focused more on the blessings of God rather than God himself. We can assume that Jacob, being the son of Isaac and the grandson of Abraham, grew up knowing about God and the right things to do. Many of you perhaps have a similar upbringing. Your parents or grandparents bring you to church on Sundays, you attend Sunday school, you're here in VBS now, and we hope you have a firm understanding of God and His Word. However, even though Jacob was taught the correct ways, he was still a troublemaker. He knew that blessings were bestowed by God to his family, but he wanted to take those blessings for himself. We can see from his origin story, he was a trickster and a deceiver. We can also see that after this incident in Genesis 32, Jacob was given a new name. In superhero movies, when the hero gains his superpowers, he takes on a new name and identity. Bruce Wayne becomes Batman, Peter Parker becomes Spider-Man, and, well, Tony Stark says,
I am Iron Man.
Similarly, when the Bible shows a person getting a new name, it also comes with a new identity. In the Bible, we have quite a few examples, such as Sarai to Sarah, Abram to Abraham, and Saul to Paul. Jacob's name was changed from meaning a supplanter or one who usurps to one that meant struggle with God and man and won. Luckily, we do not need to struggle physically with God to become new. Jesus Christ, through his death on the cross, opened that door for us to become changed and renewed. In order to achieve this, though, we need to seek God's face. This speaks to an intentional action on our part. We must be willing to purposefully pursue God. This will go beyond mere church attendance, going to Sunday school, even visiting your youth ministries. It won't be enough just to mutter a prayer before you rush out the house to go to school or work. You would need to do more than occasional listening to a Christian podcast or filling your music library with inspirational songs, or even posting Bible verses and religious material on your social media pages. It starts with a definite intent to know God personally. Now, let's go back to our relationship example. If you wanted to genuinely know someone, what would you do? I'm sure you would talk to that person, and not just about the weather, but you would share details. And as you get closer, you will share intimate details of your life. You may share your hopes and dreams, and you might even share your fears. You will listen to that person when they speak and seek to remember what they said afterwards. You will also find out what that person likes and try to do those things. Getting to know that person requires conscious thought, time, and effort on your part. In the same way, seeking God's face requires thought, time, and effort. It also requires devotion and longing. Seeking God is a lifelong process. Like a relationship, you will not just say, "Oh, you completely arrive at knowing the person and you fully understand the partner. And that's the same with your relationship with God. It is dynamic, it isn't static, and is ever flowing and grows daily. It is normal and natural to pray to God for our daily needs. Like a good parent, God desires to give us what we need to survive. Jesus himself, in the Lord's Prayer, taught his disciples to pray, "Give us this day our daily bread." Still, God desires to have a deeper relationship with us that goes beyond seeking his blessings and provisions. Isn't it amazing that the creator of the heavens and the earth, the being that controls the sun and the stars, wants to get to know you as an individual? And he wants to do that personally. Acts 17:24 and 27 says, "The God who made the world and everything in it is the Lord of the heaven and earth." Did this so that they would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from any one of us. We should count seeking God's face as a privilege and not something to be ignored or taken for granted. How can we go about seeking God? Do we need to move to a monastery in an isolated location, separating ourselves from the world, and become a monk to seek God's face? No. The best thing is that we can seek God right where we are. It can start simply as a prayer to God, telling him your desire to know him personally and not just when you need things from him. It can involve devoting time every day to read the Bible, which are his words of love and instruction to us. It can involve spending time with people who you know have an intimate relationship with God so that you can learn from their experiences. It can also involve helping those in need so that you can pour out the love God has instilled in you to others. Over time, seeking God's face becomes a natural part of your everyday life. You get joy in simply spending quiet time alone, reflecting on the beauty and wonders of the world he created. The joy and peace of being in the presence of God becomes your ultimate goal, and not just receiving enough blessings from God to live a comfortable life. Going back to our superhero analogy, we know that each of our favorite superheroes is tasked with a specific mission or designated area to protect. Batman, he's the protector of Gotham. Superman is the protector of Metropolis. We have your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man in New York. And well, Iron Man is international. They all have a specific duty or mission that they spend their whole life trying to complete. Similarly, God has an ordained plan and mission that he wants you to be a part of. Except his mission involves the entire earth. Actually, the world, and it spans through space and time. We all know the famous Bible verse in John 3:16, and you can repeat it after me. "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life." By seeking God's face and growing closer to him, an exciting thing happens. God reveals your part in this amazing mission. Your true purpose and reason for living is revealed through intimacy with him. Now, you have your assigned destiny that only you can fulfill. Like our beloved superheroes, the road to fulfilling your destiny may not always be smooth. You will encounter obstacles and challenges, sometimes put in place by your arch nemesis, Satan. But as we know, heroes always prevail, and with God's help, we rise above our challenges to ultimate victory. With such a thrilling opportunity truly knowing God offers, there's no wonder that the Apostle Paul said these words in Philippians 3, verse 8 and to 9, when he considers the priceless value of knowing God. And he says, yes, everything else is worthless when compared with the infinite value of knowing Christ, Jesus my Lord. For his sake, I have discarded everything else, counting it as garbage, so that I could gain Christ and become one with him. So my friends, the call to be known as a generation that seeks God's face like Jacob is a tremendous privilege. God is ready to create your origin story and put you on the path to fulfilling your destiny with our Savior, Jesus Christ, according to his plan. Now, if you're ready to answer the call, you will find that seeking God's face is the number one activity that you would love to be involved in 24/7.
The Lord Most High is King. There is no one like our God. So come on, let's enter in. Sing with me. Who can stand with a shout? So lift up your voice and sing. The Lord of hosts at our right hand, and forever He will reign. Swing wide, swing wide, swing wide. Ye gates for the King of glory. Lift up your eyes for salvation's near. He has crushed all our enemies and gives us the victory now. Swing wide, swing wide, swing wide, swing wide. Swing wide, ye gates for the King of glory. Lift up your eyes for salvation's near. He has crushed all our enemies and gives us the victory now. Come on, sing it with me. Who can stand before the Lord? For the Lord Most High. The Lord Most High is here. There is no one like our God. So come on, let's enter in. So come on, let's enter. He's ascended with a shout. He's ascended with a shout. So lift up your voice.